All right. Oh, hello. How's everyone doing?
What is going on? What's going on? Um, yeah, it's weird because I can't see your screen in Streamlabs, Matt, but I can see you on the stream itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So for everyone's information, Greg is usually the one running these streams, and so for tonight, since Greg is on his way to GaryCon as we speak, on the
Yeah.
road, I'm the one running it this time. Hope everything is doing well. I'm fairly sure you guys can hear me.
Yeah. Can you
If
guys sound off in the chat and make sure that you can hear Matt and I make sure everything's coming through okay?
if we're just silent pictures that look like they're trying to talk, just let us know. Otherwise, I'm going to assume you guys can hear us. Just trying to figure out this setup my guys got. But yeah. So uh, tonight we're doing a little something different. Because a lot of
Hey, what's up,
times.
old man Garrus?
Oh, hey, Garrus. All right. Audio video's fine. All right. Thanks. So yeah, normally we kind of focus on industry, games industry news, and I don't know, Rob. I feel like this past week has been a little like slow as far as news comes out. Like
Yeah,
there've been a
it's been
couple
a little
things, but
quiet. There's been a couple of things here and there, but it's been a little quiet. Most of the stuff is focused around games releasing, in the coming next few months, like next month and onward. You got some new stuff that have come out for existing games, like um, this what's it called, Plunder Bash
Underbat.
piece. Hold on,
I hadn't heard about that.
it's content for World of Warcraft. I'm trying to remember what the hell the name of it is.
Ah, okay. So
Yeah. So that and just games that have been coming out. But yeah, it has been a little quiet. It's been a little quiet
yeah,
in
which
terms of
yeah, which is why
industry.
this time, because honestly, the past several podcasts talking about industry news have been like, I feel like it's been putting a bit of like damper on things because a lot of not great things is happening in the industry. So this time, we're taking a break from that, and we're just gonna focus on some positivity tonight. Like as the stream style says, Greg's gone, so let's talk about stuff we like. So I think we're gonna do just that. Like games that we've liked, could be our favorite game from our childhood, or something we currently playing, or even something we're looking forward to as a future release. And like, I'm excited for it, and everyone in the chat, you guys can join in as well. Tell us what your like favorite game is, or something you're really enjoying, and let's talk about that. This is just going to be a free ass conversation tonight.
Yes, Plunderstorm. There we go. That's the name of the damn thing, Plunderstorm. Um,
Being critic, right? Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I mean. So, I guess we can start with you, Ron. Oh, Ring's
uh,
got some she's got some thoughts on
she got some thoughts on
Plunderstorm.
Plunderstorm. Yeah, she is not a huge PvP fan, but I will let her speak on that. As for me, yeah, guys. First of all, welcome in. This is episode 44 of the Epilogue. I'm your host, Rob. With me is Matt, and Greg, for once, is in the audience. He, like Matt said, he's on his way to GaryCon. Um, but this is more of a free form discussion uh, thing. But yeah, Harper, what's your take on Plunderstorm?
Yeah, because I'll admit I haven't like paid attention to World of Warcraft in quite some time. Last time I played was Warlords of Draenor, which that was a while ago by now. So I haven't played
Yeah,
that one in quite a while.
that was the third expansion, I believe. Yeah, it was Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, and Warlords of Draenor.
No, there was Miss of Pandaria.
Was it Mist
Then
then Warlords of Draenor?
I want to say Lords of Draenor was like fifth, but I'm not certain. Again, I haven't kept up with things for a while. So from let's see, them doing the same shit that they did. They did Battle for Azeroth when they focused on PvP and said, "Screw our folks that are more focused on PvE." Okay, so they're really just honing in on PvP, and yeah, I get that. That's like definitely not for everyone. I wouldn't. I did a little bit of PvP back when I used to play. I played as a hunter, but I enjoyed PvE a good bit more. But yeah. Let's start talking about the things we like. I mean, we can start with you, Rob. Like, what would you say is like your favorite game of all they've ever played?
My favorite game of all time, dude. That's a tough one.
It's like off the top of
That
your head, like what's the
is
first thing uh that you think of, just comes into your mind?
um shit. Damn, that's a really tough one.
Should I go
All the
first?
fi-
Give you some time.
all the Final Fantasy games, all of them. I played them all from one to well, okay, I haven't played all, but from one to I think the last one I played was 12. Um, was I mean they were all really good for different reasons, but I think my favorite of all of them was Final Fantasy 9. I think that was the first one I actually finished. Aside from Tactics, I think that's a tough one. It's a toss up between Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy 9. Um, so I can't give you my favorite. I'm going to give you my top five in no particular order. Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy Tactics, um, The Legends of Dragoon, Final Fantasy 8. I'm starting to see a trend here. I played a lot of Final Fantasy games as a kid.
Hey, they were good
Um,
back in the day. I mean, not to say that current Final Fantasy isn't good as well, but it's very different from what it used to be.
and Diablo 1 and 2.
Okay, all classics. Actually, I actually don't know too much about Final Fantasy 9. I feel like ooh, was that the
That was
one where the main character was like a monkey boy or something? Like he had some sort of tail.
Zidane, yeah, he had a tail, and
Oh, okay, I only know of him because of
Vivi,
Dissidia.
yeah. Vivi was the mage. Still can't. I still don't know if Vivi was a male character or female character because they don't actually address
Sometimes in works kind of Japan, they from time to
that.
time you keep they keep things that come out as very androgynous, kind of like from like Ed from Cowboy Bebop. They never really answered whether Ed was a boy or
Yeah. And to answer your
even the other
question,
characters were always wondering like what is that thing.
yeah, Ed was a special character. But to answer your question, Omangaris, I said no particular order. But Legends of Dragoon is definitely one of my favorite games from back in the day. It was one of the ones I've replayed multiple times. That one in Final Fantasy Tactics I've played multiple times just because they were that good. Final Fantasy Tactics, the replayability on that game was absolutely unprecedented, especially at the time. The complexity of it, and the story was absolutely fantastic. For anyone who's ever played it, the story was great. Legends of Dragoon as well was dope as hell. The story was great. The characters were really good. The combat system for the time, especially because it was your old school kind of turn-based stuff, was really active. It had like this kind of combo system where you had it kind of introduced a combo system and then system where you had to hit a key at a specific point. Um, so basically, what it would do is take a box and like you would zoom in to a specific point on the screen, and you had to hit I think it was like X at the right point to get to continue to combo. So
Ah,
it was turn based because you could still pick what you were going to do, but it was interactive in that regard. Honestly, it was a departure from the norm, and it's I mean still to this day some of the best cinematic scenes in any game ever.
see.
Kingdom Hearts is another one. The first one was really great.
Kingdom Hearts.
Uh,
Kingdom Hearts is a pretty good series. Well, I Kingdom Hearts is such a weird series to me because they made every game, including all the spin-offs, canon. So the plot ended up very convoluted. I
yeah, from what I heard, yeah.
I remember playing Kingdom Hearts 3, and there were so many moments that I was just completely lost because there's a plot point that was very important that came from like very obscure their offshoots games. Like there's one part that was super important to the overall story, but it was tied in with the mobile game of all things.
Mm.
From Ring Pokemon and Rune Factory. I've heard of Rune Factory. I don't know too much about it, but actually, here's a funny fun little story about my history with Pokemon. Um,
This is actually, it's kind of a touching story.
yeah. So I played Pokemon from a very young age. And from such a young age that I played it before I even properly knew how to read. So what little me would do with like my Game Boy is that I'd follow my older brother around as I'm trying to play the game. I'd be like, "What's this word? What's this word?" And I know I annoyed the shit out of him with it. But salute to him, what a trooper. He would tell me what the words were, and so because I wanted to play Pokemon, I actually started to read from a very early age. So don't let anybody say that video games haven't done some good for kids from time to time. Because I learned to read from a very early age thanks to Pokemon.
Yep. Matt learned to read thanks to Pokemon. Where's my dog?
Fighting and raising monsters mixed with a Harvest Moon style. That's Rune Factory. Okay, I can kind of see it's kind of one of those kind of easygoing farming type games. Instead of like regular farm animals, you have like fantasy monsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, because I know I've heard of Rune Factory. I'm just not terribly familiar. Shadows Riddle Box. Okami? Ooh,
Okami.
no. Okami was a game. That was shit. Who made that? That's a classic game. Wasn't it Platinum
That
Games?
was made by
Clover Studio, and those are the guys that eventually became Platinum Games, which are the guys behind like Bayonetta, Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, a lot of fantastic games. Honestly,
let's see what Okami got on Metacritic.
I think unfortunately, I think Okami's kind of like a cult classic, where like
they actually got a universal acclaim of kind of their meta score is a 93.
That's pretty good,
critics,
honestly.
And a 9.1 from users.
Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I've always heard very good things. Well, it's stellar, like art direction, its style, just like everything. Like,
damn, Legends of Dragoon actually got a mixed or average review at 74 for critics and 8.6 from the user base.
Legends of Dragoon, that's definitely a classic. Like, I know it wasn't like a hugely popular game, but I hear it come up through the grapevine from time to time from people who are very dedicated fans of
it. Yeah, people are chiming in. There's some newer reviews of the game. These people just don't know a good game.
Kids these days.
Fucking plebs.
So, actually, because we talk about the favorite games, because stuff that I really enjoyed when I was a kid. Besides Pokemon, you actually named one of them, Final Fantasy Tactics. I played a lot. Honestly, a bit of a mature story for when I was playing it. Maybe I shouldn't have, but I did anyway.
Yeah, probably not.
But Honestly, another one of my favorite games of all time that I still go back to from time to time is Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door. That game, so goddamn good. It was. Are you familiar with the Paper Mario games?
I am not actually. I've heard of them. I've never played them.
Okay, so modern Paper Mario, very different like beast from the let's say the first three games were really good. The third one, Super Paper Mario, is when they really started to depart from the formula. But it was essentially kind of like a turn-based RPG.
Mhm.
Actually, Paper Mario was the spiritual successor to the classic Super Mario RPG, which they actually did a remake of just a couple months ago. I think I meant to go check
Hmm.
that out. Probably should. And it's called Paper Mario because it has a the art aesthetic is like 2D characters and like a 3D plane, and they play around with the idea that they're made of like say paper. So sometimes the way that if they turn sideways, they actually like kind of disappear for a bit before they turn around. Like they're actually
Mhm.
made out of paper in the 3D space. Honestly, it was super charming, and Thousand Year Door I think is exactly what you want out of like the ideal kind of sequel where it takes what was built in the first game and just adds upon it and improves.
Hmm.
Honestly,
Definitely might have to check that out.
it's just a ton of fun. I know that Nintendo is remaking Thousand Year Door, and I'm so excited. I couldn't be more excited. And
Yeah.
modern Paper Mario
God.
is just very different, and it makes me sad. Makes me sad to see what they're doing. But I guess someone's buying them because they keep making them. So if other people enjoy modern Paper Mario, then all the power to them. I thought we were positive times. Why am I getting sad? All right. So that is some of my favorite stuff. Did we lose? I know. You were just saying very still. I thought we lost you for a second.
No, no, I was just sitting really still. So another one of my favorite games that I was kind of thinking of it. Radiata Stories. That was a game that was for the PS2. I remember. I think that was one of the longest times I ever stayed up playing a video game that late. I think I was up for like 36 hours or
36.
something
My
like that.
God. I
Yeah,
don't think I've
like
ever done that.
like straight. I think I started like in the afternoon, and I was just playing all the way through. It was thank God it was a weekend, but I couldn't put it down. For some reason, the game was really fun. It was a charming JRPG, and the premise of the game was, at least from what I can remember, and I don't want to look it up because that's cheating. Uh, you're the son. Basically, there's this kind of mercenary guild in a town near where your village is, and I believe the main character's father was part of that mercenary guild or something like that. Um, or or some or it was either he was part of the guild or he was someone well known. I think he held the position of, call him the arbitrator or the arbiter, and it was a big deal. That his dad goes missing or passes on or something like that. And basically, as you come of age, you go out into this town to join the guild. And it was the things that stood out to me were the combat. It was a real time action combat game. So similar in a way to Kingdom Hearts. But one of the things that really stood out to me about this game, besides like the art style and everything, which is really good, was the day and night cycle. It was one of the only games that I can remember at that time that had that. I mean, there were a couple other ones. I think Majora's Mask had a day and night cycle, um, that was important to the game, but this one had a day and night cycle. that was important to the kind of the flow of the game because you could take certain quests, get certain NPCs at a particular time of the day. And I thought that was really cool. And honestly, as a young kid, I think I was like 12 or something like that. It didn't click right away for me that that was a thing. Um, I think it only happened like in happenstance where I guess my sleep addled brain finally realized, wait a minute, something's different here. And yeah, it was the day and night cycle that they had in the game. It's really cool, really fun. If you guys can find the game, it was a PS2 game. They might have it on like emulators or whatever. Radiata story. I'll type it in the chat. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that one before. Like, yeah, back then, like games with day night cycles like that were definitely a lot more rare than you see that nowadays. I feel like the first game that I played that ever had that kind of thing was, what was it? Pokemon Silver and Gold? I think they had a
I
very
think so.
rudimentary day and night system. But I think because of the way it was done, I think like those initial cartridges, they had like a small like they had like something in them. I don't know if it was like a built-in timer or whatever, but I think like if you were to try to play it today, not using an emulator, one of those off those original cartridges, I don't know if that would work anymore. It'd just be stuck as the same day the entire time.
Hmm.
I mean that was when that type of thing stuff was very early. How out of stories? I had never heard of that before. I've played some
Yeah, I
obscure games
highly.
from time to time.
Yeah, I do. I think we all do at a certain point.
I mean, I think, yeah, everyone's played some obscure games from time to time.
It's
Like,
that's so cold. Infinity Core. That's
that
so cold. Damn. You can't be talking about my boy like that.
that's the most savage comment we've. I think it's the most savage comment we've seen our entire time streaming. Uh,
Seriously. Welcome in, Infinity Core. It's good to see you, man.
yeah,
So today is it's a chill day. It's a chill night. Kind of the industry news has been a little slower um, over the last week, and honestly, uh, a change from the doom and gloom that we were kind of known for, at least touching on in our episodes, is a good thing. We've all been hard at work getting ready for Gary Con, which starts tomorrow. Um, so yeah, tonight is a bit chill night. We're just talking about things games that we grew up playing as kids, and our favorite games. Might even get into anime because, in case you guys haven't realized, Matt's a weeb.
you are too. You just try. You're
Uh,
like a closet weeb. You try to hide it.
I'm not a weeb. I am an enjoyer of anime. Those are not the same things.
Here's the thing: only
I
a
don't.
filthy weeb can call another person a filthy weeb.
Well, I guess I'm a filthy weeb.
So, let's see. What here's the next thing I want to talk about. Like, what is like your favorite story that you've seen in like something that told just a really damn good story that
My favorite story of
yeah,
any game that I have played
could be something recent or
thus,
from your childhood.
honestly, my favorite story was Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation.
Uh,
That was, in my opinion, I mean, the Final Fantasy storylines were pretty cool too.
yeah, they
But
are.
just a story that I kind of could, understand was the Metal Gear Solid story.
Yeah, I mean, Metal Gear Solid has always been a very,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, a solid series. Uh,
I see what you did there.
a shame that Hideo Kojima is no longer with Konami. Now Konami owns the IP.
Yeah.
Always sad to see that Kojima will not be making any more. But
Mhm.
no, that's always been a great series. That's, I mean, the overall like theme, or first the main storytelling of the entire series is just a commentary on essentially the business of war.
Yeah.
Like parents, like how those things come to be, the effect on the world that it has. It's as goofy as the Metal Gear series gets sometimes. It does have a very like valid point to make with its storytelling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head with the goofy bit. I think it was you that told me about the latest one. Which one was it?
I mean, the most recent game was Metal Gear Solid 5, and
No, not that one. It was a goofy one. I think when you were dodging, telling me about the like right and dodging rockets or some shit like that.
oh, that's Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. That actually wasn't made by Kojima. That was done by Platinum Games
Oh,
as
okay.
they're like a spin-off. But that game, I think you should look up like a playthrough of it one day and just
Probably
watch
did
it
it.
because it is, you know, where normal Metal Gear Solid is this kind of like methodical gameplay involving stealth,
Mhm.
kind of slowly taking out the enemies in your way and trying to avoid detection. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, which I Revengeance isn't even a word, but I don't care. It
It's not
sounds
a word.
cool, but
Revengeance.
yeah, it's not a
Sounds
word, but it
stupid.
sounds cool, and that's the point. And that thing is a complete like spectacle action game. Like, think of the same vein as Bayonetta or the original God of War. It's just completely over the top action. Just and that's how it is. You're doing ridiculous things all the time, fighting giant like Metal Gears, and just the boss of the game is a U.S. senator.
Yep.
Uh, yeah. So like it's such a silly game, but it keeps up that commentary of the business of war, and I think this one it draws. I mean, it's obviously that the war in question there is like a pretty like an equivalent to the U.S. War in the Middle East. You know, it's a pretty close resemblance there, and yeah, that's the Metal Gear series whole thing until you know, shortly after Hideo Kojima left and Konami put out Metal Gear Survive, which was a zombie survival game.
Hmm.
I still can't believe that they did that. That was like when zombie survival games were all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, The Walking Dead, they had a huge impact on media for quite a while. I mean,
Oh yeah,
they actually came out with new spin-off um stuff, uh basically focus on different characters, um like Daryl Dixon and Michonne and all that stuff. I actually did watch the Daryl Dixon Walking Dead series over the last couple of days. And
really,
it's taking a break here and there. It was pretty good. I mean, Norman Reedus is a fantastic actor,
that's true.
and his character as Dale Dixon, oh Daryl, excuse me, not Dale.
Daryl, yeah, yeah,
Daryl Dixon is a really good character. Let's be honest. Um, Tons of character growth. So,
nice.
but what about you, Matt? What game that you played as a kid, or show, or anything that kind of had a lasting impression in terms of story?
Um, honestly, I mean, I there are like some obvious picks like Final Fantasy Tactics or stuff like that, but I think something that I think about quite often, so the way it does something very different, is Undertale, which, you know, fantastic indie game
You
made by
have
Toby
told me about
Fox.
that.
Yeah, I've
Mhm.
talked about it before on this podcast. I'm gonna talk about it again because it's a fantastic game.
Okay, okay,
Where
calm down.
so it does a very unique thing because it is one of those games where, you know, you can have like your good playthrough or your evil playthrough, one of those types of games.
Mm,
But the way I think the way it handles the evil playthrough is so incredibly different from any other game you've seen handle such a topic. Because a lot of
In
time,
what way?
I mean, I think a lot of time when you do an evil play, sometimes it changes a lot of things, or sometimes maybe it doesn't. Say like Mass Effect, if you're doing Paragon or Renegade, it doesn't make that much of a difference what you do. Just, maybe sometimes you feel like, I feel like a lot of time the evil playthrough is something more of like a power fantasy, where you're doing the thing that you want to do, nobody can stop you, ha ha ha, that type of thing. Gained
That
ultimate
that
power.
is fair. That
Uh,
that's fair.
Undertale handles it completely different. Because on one hand, they almost trick you into thinking that getting that power fantasy, because in that game, you only gain experience to level up by killing the monsters instead of like, because the battle mechanics, you either find a way to peacefully settle a battle and like essentially befriend the enemies or kill them. If you befriend them, you don't get any experience. Kill them, you do. So on your evil playthrough, you're actually gaining levels. And there's the route that, like, if you delve fully into this, called the genocide route. Essentially, each area has a set number of like actual monsters in it, where after you kill a certain amount, they no longer spawn.
Hmm.
And you gain more levels, technically get stronger, like more health and all that stuff. But the game also throws its absolute hardest, and I mean hardest, battles at you, the boss battles. Anyone who's ever played Undertale doing the genocide route knows exactly who I'm talking about. Undyne and Sans. Like, I think those two have been some of the hardest boss fights I've ever played in a video. That also didn't feel like they were cheating. And
That says a lot.
yeah, it was meant that you were supposed to die several times and keep on trying until you finally did it. But beyond just that, it's also about the feeling, how the game presents with. Because
You cut out a bit there, Matt. What were you saying?
oh, okay. I was saying that there's a big difference in the way that the game presents what you are doing compared to any other. Because in this, I feel like like Toby Fox actively designed it to not be fun.
Hmm.
And by that, let me try to explain that idea. Because trying to, in order to keep going through the genocide route, the true most evil route, you have to kill every monster, every area. And kind of doing the slow grind each area. It kind of has like a random battle system. So we're just gotta walk back and forth and killing everything you come across. What's more, when you're on that route, the music in each area, which is normally the Undertale music is fantastic. It's a very fun soundtrack. But when you're on the genocide, the tracks for each area are actually very different. It's like this dulled, almost listless version of the original song. Like that fun there isn't there anymore. All the puzzles that are a staple for each area are pretty much auto solved. Like the music is less fun. You have this grindy aspect, and a lot of the characters actually have their absolute best moments when facing you.
Hmm.
Like the first
So
like the first
okay, go
major
ahead.
boss is normally such a goofy guy. He gets serious and he doesn't actually even fight you. Instead, he tries to believe and give you a chance to turn things around, which really makes you feel bad. Playing on the feeling of guilt there to see if you can go through with it, because he
Hmm.
doesn't attack you. Instead, if you want to keep on going, you have to attack him, kill him, even though he's trying to believe in you, which bad feeling. And that's kind of the idea where they it actually made me feel bad going through it. And then they
Hmm.
kick your ass with these incredibly tough boss fights. Like I'm saying, it took me around like 20 tries for each of those two major boss fights. 20 tries. I think a lot of people had to do a lot more because they're just that
Hmm.
difficult. I think it was almost like Toby Fox trying to dissuade you from going forth with it. I'd like to say more, but there's a lot more like there's a lot of spoilery things to say about that, but I just think it's handled in a very unique doing the evil route that
You're
it
cutting out a
actually
lot, buddy.
really
Hmm.
what is going on. Okay, so um I just think it's a very unique way of handling an evil playthrough that actually makes you feel, yeah, you're not doing a good thing here. You're being a bad
So,
person.
so Undertale kind of plays on or adds a level of depth due to the emotional implications of playing an evil person, whereas most games, and I will agree with you that most games they tend to yeah, there's dialogue, kind of recognizing that you're evil or bad, or you're not being the good guy. um but yeah, a lot of the choices are very much, they don't feel as impactful as what you described, for sure.
Yeah.
um
So most of the time, you expect, the NPCs to act in like fear of you because wow, you're so powerful and like there are some of that to be sure, but you also find people who are very defiant and like at their actual best when dealing with you when you're evil compared to if you're on your good person playthrough where they're almost like kind of reluctant to fight you because they know that you're being a good person. It's very interesting the way that is handled, and I haven't seen anyone else do that. Let's see. What else do we have
See,
from Infinity Core?
Infinity Core
Fear and
says
Dead
Fear
Space.
and Dead Space. Both of those games were absolutely, I would say Fear especially, revolutionary for the time period. Like Fear was, it took what we knew of a first person shooter at the time and slapped Silent Hill on us in addition to that in such a good way. Um yeah, no, that was fantastic. I love I actually have bought them on Steam years ago. I think I have all of them, and that was a good game, good story. Psychological terror was ramped up to an 11 in that one, especially playing that shit as a kid. Um, that reminds me of, I don't know if anyone here kind of remembers this particular game, but it was one of Rockstar's. I want to say it's their first game because they didn't. I mean, they had been making uh the Grand Theft Auto games for quite a while, but it was in the early 2000s or late 90s. But it was a game called Manhunt. I think it was one of the first adult rated games. Like one of the things I remember most from that game is the fact that you could walk around with a severed head in a plastic grocery bag
Oh
hooked
God.
onto your character's like utility belt thing. And I believe the story was you were the main character wasn't a nice person. He was I think on death row or something like that. Because he wasn't really a good person.
Yeah.
But there was this game called Manhunt that was ran by some psychopath, you know millionaire or something like that. And the main character, the player that you're running the game through with, is chosen to participate. And basically, I think the premise is you have to get through a bunch of gang held territory in this area, by a certain time limit to gain your freedom. And yeah, the game itself was absolutely brutal. I mean, you could use everything from nail guns to a shard of glass to sledgehammer. Like it was one of the first gory games that I remember. And it wasn't like cartoonishly gory like Doom. Even though I think that Doom actually has the accolades for being the first like bloody game. Um, But this game was sadistic in the extreme. Like I remember it being rated adult, and you don't see that anymore. I don't even think that exists anymore. That particular rating.
I think it still
Um,
exists. It's just I think a lot of companies understand that making a game rated adult, then it's going to be a very niche game. It's like most games want to still they still want to like apply to go for a very wide audience, and
yeah,
going for an adult rating definitely cuts off a lot of that. But
I,
uh,
I think
Rox
I don't know. That's an interesting take. I have a something I want to add to that. But go ahead.
but Rockstar, yeah, they've always been ones to kind of push that boundary. I mean, there have been several, I guess you could say, controversies involving their games, especially the GTA
Hmm.
series. We all, I'm sure a lot of people know about the hot coffee bit and what was it, San Andreas?
No, what was that?
It was one of the GTA games
At
where
least I can't remember it.
I, I don't know all the details because I never actually looked it up myself, but it's a very let's just say sexual scene that was in the game. I think it was kind of a hidden Easter egg, so a lot of people didn't know about it. People have found out about it like after the fact, like a while after they released the game, and that caused a whole controversy. So Rockstar always pushing that envelope. I guess we'll see what happens when they hit a GTA 6, how safe or risky they play it.
Yeah, I mean, running down hookers and stealing their money, pretty
That's pretty
pretty garish.
mature.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the GTA games have always been interesting in that regard because I don't know whether it was intentional or, by coincidence, but those obviously, in real life, those heinous actions in the game are showcased in a very comical sense. They're really just, and this could probably make me sound bad and taking out of context, even worse, but I will admit fully to just laughing half the time at the shit that you just get up to in that game. Um,
I mean,
I
I
don't
think
know.
we've all had our psycho moments in video games.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
like I would think the most psycho thing that I've done in video games, and this is actually going to be a funny story, was did you ever play Sonic Adventure 2 for the it came out in the GameCube. Might have been out on some of the other consoles as well.
I did not know.
Okay, so fantastic game, amazing soundtrack. But it had a kind of like side game called the Chow Guard, where you could use some of the things you picked up during the main game and raise this little pet thing called Chow. And me and my brother were both playing the game that time, so we each had our own chows.
Hmm.
And whenever me and my brother get in a fight, I would boot up the game, find his chow, and bully it for a while because they did
Oh
have
my
like
god.
a because they again making myself seem like a psycho,
Oh my god.
but that's how I would get back at him. I like pick up his chow, throw it, or one of the things that they really hate is when you give it food and then immediately take it away. But to make sure that he didn't know that I was doing it, I'd always cheer it back up afterwards. So it'd be like how it was before. And that was what I did to get back at my brother back then. But I think
You're
that's
an
my
asshole,
psycho
Matt.
story.
Shame on you. So Harper brings up Dragon Age.
Ooh.
Yeah, Dragon Age. For those of you who don't know, that was when Bioware was Bioware.
Bioware's
Um,
golden
dr-
age, like
yeah, Dragon
Mass
Age one
Effect
and
and
two,
Mass Effect trilogy
mhm,
and Dragon Age.
the
Man,
Dragon Age games. Yeah, those Dragon Age one, especially Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age. Two.
I forget what that one was called.
I've played the first two. I can't remember the first two as much as the first one. But yeah, those are absolutely fantastic games. This
Yeah, I
old one, but good one is Myst and Riven. Ooh,
Riven.
those names rings a bell. I'm gonna have to look that one up.
I don't
Hold on,
think
let's
I'm
see.
familiar with those games. Um,
Mists.
yeah, old Dragon Age definitely. Honestly, I've been kind of starved for an RPG like that. Back when
Mm,
BioWare in their golden age made some fantastic games. Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I know they're working
yeah.
on a new Dragon Age game, but BioWare has kind of fallen from grace, and I think the new Dragon Age game has already gone like several different creative directors. So I'm a little iffy on that one. But
Yeah.
honestly, that's why I'm so excited for the Knights of the Old Republic remake because
Oh,
that's
that's
the
I
shit.
can't believe I completely forgot about that game. That game is both one and two definitely on my five. Okay, so I'm at three to my list now. I can't believe I forgot these games. Uh, so Final Fantasy nine. Well, Final Fantasy seven through nine, seven, eight, and nine were some of my favorites. Legends Dragoon that's still gonna stay there. Um, KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic one and two. Let's see, what were the other two? I think let's see, what were the other two? Well, Kingdom Hearts was one. The first Kingdom Hearts. I didn't play the second one.
Second one was good. Personally, that one's my
And
series.
I guess I'm gonna add Metal Gear Solid to that list. That was
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorites. I've never played Myst and Riven, Infinity Core. I did look them up. They seem interesting, for sure. Definitely, like back in the day kind of games. 93, I think, was when Myst came out. And then 97 was when Riven was released. Huh. Oh, Diablo. Yeah, the Diablo games were one and two were good.
Oh yeah.
Those had really solid stories. And then the characters, the main characters you play, were interesting. Again, they were the first like kind of really first looter games too. So genre defining. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they're still held in high regard anyway.
Oh yeah. Those two games. We been talking about genre. Mentioned Doom earlier.
Yeah,
Doom
Doom. Oh yeah, that was
Doom pretty
absolutely.
much that kind of like almost created the first person shooter genre. Like I don't
Oh
think it
yeah,
was the
absolutely.
first to do it, but it was the one that really brought it into the light to the point that like for a while before FPS became like a genre name, people were
Hmm.
calling those games Doom clones.
Yeah, yeah.
In the
Um,
course of my education on game design, Doom came up several times.
oh, I'm sure it did. It was. I mean, again, it was revolutionary. Doom. And then after that, you had games like Quake, the Quake series, and you had the Halo series, which really kind of pushed the revolutionary aspect of the FPS. Yeah, games like Counter Strike as well. Back in the, I remember. So back in the day, and some of the younger audience, if there are any younger audience here, might not know, but back in the day, we used to have internet cafes, and for some who didn't have as powerful of a PC or even a PC in general, they go to these. You can go to these game cafes, and play games like Heroes of New Earth. I believe it was Heroes of New. That was the MOBA, and Dota 1.
I mean, I think those still
Yeah, Han.
exist,
There
but
we go. Yep. Heroes of New. Well, I mean, you have Dota 2, which is kind of what most people play now. There's still Dota 1, I believe. Um, and Heroes of New Earth, I think, is still running. But those like you'd go there and play those kind of games, or you'd play like Counter Strike back in the day. And Infinity Core says Mists and Riven were kind of the origins of story games, the point and click movement. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I I've seen some playthroughs of like some of those really old point and click adventure games. A lot of them are very silly. Like
They
they have
are
the most random solutions to their like to
the
the
puzzles.
puzzles, like the most
Mhm.
random objects you've picked up in your you wouldn't begin to think is the answer to this is the answer.
Yeah, and I think some of the placement for those point and click like adventure games, at least in my opinion, were kind of janky. Like they'd be in the most random, hard to click spot. Yeah, and Shadow says, "You only play Dota if you want to hate yourself." Yeah, yeah. I'm
I
not
think that
even
goes
gonna.
for most MOBA
I'm not
games
even,
because they're very
hey, I mean,
competitive and have a very steep like what was the term, like
yeah,
the
Steve
skill uh
skill ceiling.
skill
They have a very
ceiling,
high
yeah.
skill ceiling. Yeah, and a very high. I'd say they have a high skill ceiling and a high skill floor. And
Yeah.
yeah, they can be, to use a term, they can be very, very sweaty.
Yeah,
Try
definitely.
hard. Like people are like, people get really, 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 really aggressive on those kind of games.
I think that goes for any game that is competitive and team based.
Yeah.
Because if it
Eh,
was like a free
go ahead.
for all, then people wouldn't be that toxic. But
Mhm.
because now your success is reliant on someone else, that gets people a lot more upset. Oh, and just lost Rob. Uh, okay, this is my first time trying to fix that bit. Let's see, how do I do? There we go.
Okay.
Okay, you're back. All right, my first time ever having to fix that myself. Glad it didn't take me very long.
Yeah.
Infinity, they are heavy on visual cues and audio cues to solve puzzles. Yeah, definitely. Definitely not a style of game you see very often today. Like, I feel like the only place you'd really be able to see a modern version of one of those games is you probably find someone in the indie market making something.
Hmm. Greg Swan is missing.
Like, we can talk about whatever we want now.
It feels weird not to have Greg here. Ain't gonna lie.
True,
Um,
it's for first time he hasn't been.
yeah, he hasn't been present. Feels weird. But yeah, so but yeah, what have you guys been playing? Anybody play anything recent? Anything more recent that's really kind of none here?
Yeah, I know. Lately I've been playing so much Monster Hunter World.
Oh yeah, him and his brother have been really playing. I got to get back into it. I kind of felt way behind the two of you. I'm sure.
Oh
You
yeah,
guys are already in Iceborne and shit.
fantastic expansion. It's just such a good game. Honestly, Monster Hunter, there's a lot to it. It's a very complicated game, but when
It's
you
so good though. I ain't gonna lie, it really is good.
when you start to learn its mechanics and like start figuring out like how to really make your build, because each weapon type is incredibly different from the next, like completely
Mhm.
different play styles. It's just a lot of fun. Just fighting these giant monsters. I don't know. It's hard to explain what's so good about Monster Hunter because it's like you fight a giant monster with a big dumb weapon you shouldn't be able to hold.
Yeah, some of the weapons are absolutely
They're
ridiculous. You're like,
comically
how in the
large.
hell?
You know, it's like I mean, look, we played like Final Fantasy VII. We saw Cloud with this big ass Buster Sword. You know, the big dumb anime weapon. That's essentially what Monster Hunter is. Save for a few
Yeah,
weapons that are
yeah,
actually realistic. Like a person would be able to wield this. Yes.
yeah. You're absolutely right. It is definitely the big dumb anime weapon kind of meme.
Yeah, but I mean,
Just because I mean, it's a Capcom game too. What do you expect?
dude, Capcom
But yeah,
they've been killing it. I'm so hyped for Monster Hunter Wilds.
Mhm. That's supposed to. I think that's about a year away. I think maybe a year or
Probably.
so before we get it.
I'm
Um,
excited for that. Looks fantastic.
yeah,
Because
I just recently found out that the League of Legends MMO that's being worked on is still in development.
I forgot that was a thing. I heard about it so long ago,
Yeah, right.
and like I I I didn't know that was a thing anymore. I
So
completely
it's still in
forgotten.
development, but the development team had to, as they said in a recent Twitter post, they had to change kind of the direction and kind of go back to square one. So they're going dark for a while to revamp
Ah,
things, and so that's unfortunate.
that's interesting. Another great story was Deus Ex. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Deus Ex. I'm not terribly familiar with like the original. I played like the PS3 Human Revolution, I think it was called. But like I've heard a lot about Deus Ex. That's also another game that came up a couple
mm,
times during my education. Definitely very influential game as far as like storytelling. A good. It's a damn shame that the recent one got its development canceled by Embracer Group.
yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
should ever see that happen. But yeah, Deus Ex has been a fantastic series. Kind of that same vein as Cyberpunk, like the idea of modifying the human body, all that type of stuff.
I mean,
Kind of the cyberpunk
I
elements.
yes, very much cyberpunk-esque. I do like the fact though that in Deus Ex you could really play the way you want. Like it was very much, hey, attack this problem in kind of whatever way you saw fit, and they definitely crafted the story and obviously the mechanics, but the story especially around each of those components, but in such a way that it still made sense.
It was more
So
political intrigue. Okay,
yeah, probably.
did the original Deus Ex come out? That was because I know it's fairly old by now. Original Deus Ex series, 2000. For some reason, I thought it was
Yeah, it was
earlier
like
than.
2003, I think.
Uh, what I'm finding right now is just actually on 2000.
2000. Okay.
Yeah, so for some reason I thought it was earlier than that. I mean, by now that's old.
Eh,
But yeah, it's a yeah. But Deus Ex definitely yeah. In the course of my education, that is what we were saying there. As what I heard several times about like how they make it so possible to approach a situation with like so many different possible solutions and ways that you could get through a certain challenge.
mm,
That whether you just go in guns blazing or find a completely different way around the issue. Definitely an interesting. I think at the time there weren't any games that did that style of game design. It had so many possible solutions.
yeah, that was what made it so memorable is that it was very much you could play the way you wanted. You know, you can approach the game in so many different avenues that definitely made it very very unique.
Um. All right. Let, let's talk about what's a game coming up that you're very excited for? That like that you know is going to be coming out but hasn't come out yet, or something you might hope gets a sequel.
Mm.
Right now, what I've got like what I'm very excited for which I just heard got getting like a delay. It's like it got delayed for its release here in the U.S. It's EDF 6, which
Yeah.
for those who aren't familiar with the EDF series, Earth Defense Force, um, I feel like the most relevant thing right now to kind of compare it to would be Helldivers, where it's pretty much your soldiers fighting giant bugs, but ED and it doesn't take itself too seriously, just like Helldivers. But how to put it in a way that makes it sound different and appealing compared to Helldivers? Because Helldivers, it very okay. This is what I'll say. Helldivers, from everything I've seen of it, really nails the visuals. Like
Hmm.
the game looks fantastic and really sells that kind of like gritty, very much Starship Troopers vibe. Which EDF also has that Starship Troopers vibe, but imagine a like low budget sci-fi movie, like bad effects, cheesy dialogue. That's EDF, and it's that way on
So a B-rate.
purpose.
So basically a B-rated Starship Troopers. Gotcha.
It's it's honestly such a charming game because it's his dialogue is very cheesy and corny, yet delivered with such like they deliver these ridiculous lines like they're in life or death situations, talking about giant bugs and stuff like that. And this is actually what impresses me about EDF as a series. And because I talk about like it's like the budget, so it doesn't look super visually impressive, but I think that lets it. Yeah, so
Drink some water, man.
sorry about that. Um, what I think that lets it do, because it doesn't look like a super high graphical game,
Mm.
is that they're able to go nuts on the scale. Where like you could have like an entire horde of enemies coming at you, where you really are fighting off this giant horde of giant ants or spiders or like robots, UFOs flying through the sky. Uh, you'd have like a bunch of like friendly NPCs joining you in this like huge battle, like airstrikes coming in for massive explosions across the entire map. Like the scale and absolute just how much stuff is going on at the same time is absolutely insane. And it really does feel like you're in this massive battle.
You have told me about this game enough times that I'm genuinely curious about it.
It's a really dumb game, but it's that way by design. To where
It doesn't
it
take itself seriously. It leads into the slapstick comedy of it from what you're saying.
oh yeah, I mean there are certainly are some joke weapons out there. Like you have I remember one weapon that really made me laugh is a prototype acid sprayer. You think like an acid sprayer, it's kind of like a like what you would normally think is a like a flamethrower that like sprays acid out at your enemies. What they did is it was essentially like a spray bottle, like you would use for like cleaning solutions, and
That's
you would
fucking
shoot
funny.
it and it would barely go any distance.
Huh.
But it was not practical at all. It is so funny, and like you're just like, oh no, and then you just get mauled by the ants.
A fucking spray bottle. Next thing you'll tell me you have a fucking roll up newspaper. That would be
uh,
hilarious.
unfortunately not. But I remember
They
another.
missed the opportunity.
I remember another one of my favorite weapons and this is a weapon that makes an appearance in multiple installations of the series called the Tortoise Missile,
Oh
where
yeah, you were
the
telling me about
the
this.
category of missiles was like it would have like a large like kind of box on your screen, and you'd have to keep your enemy in there for a certain amount of time for the missile to lock on. And then once it's locked on, you can fire it, and the missile will automatically like seek out the target. So the tortoise missile, it was very powerful, very powerful. It dealt a lot of damage, huge blast radius, absolutely decimate anything it hits and everything around it. But it took a very long time to lock on. And once you shot it, like it was a big missile too, like huge. That was on your missile launcher. Shoot it, and it's called the tortoise because it is ridiculously slow in the way it moves. So much so that in one of the games, I remember I would shoot it and I could just run past it as it slowly glides through the air. And I would just stand in its path and let it hit me. It just blow everything up.
Oh my god.
It's just a lot of dumb fun. I know there's like
we're definitely needing that, I think. Um Needing games like that that don't take themselves too seriously. Obviously they lean into a theme, and they they have good elements, but gone are the days when you can just have some wacky fun, I think. In a lot of games that are coming out. Either that or people just have forgotten how to have fun. I don't know. I don't know which it is.
I mean, I think there is something valuable of the games that do take themselves seriously. Like, the God of War took itself very seriously, but it was also a very fantastic game that essentially God of War matured with its audience, because original God of War trilogy, that's what we played as edgy teens. We're like, wow, look at all the action and blood and gore. And then those same people grew up to be adults with possibly families by now. So God of War comes back. Kratos got a son.
Kratos' dad.
He's like matured. He's kind of calmed down a bit from just the pure rage he had before. He matured.
He's teaching his son to be better.
Exactly. And it's like, frankly, I just want to talk about that. That was a fucking genius move. If they tried to make the same thing that they had done before with God of War, I genuinely don't think it would have done nearly. They knew their audience had grown up, and so they grew up with them, make a more mature game.
And I think you're right. I think if they had come out with, the God of War of the late '90s, early 2000s, it would not have landed as well with audiences as this more mature take on Kratos. Not to say that the game wasn't mature to begin with, because obviously it was, but the character.
It's a different level of maturity. Like before, it was mature in the sense that, like, blood, gore, sex, violence, all that stuff. What a teenage boy thinks is mature, essentially.
Yeah, 100% right on that one.
And then, God of War Reboot comes along, and it's about, being a father, responsibility and stuff. And it's like, okay, that's mature.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is. I do enjoy those goofy. I think that's one thing that has contributed to Helldivers' success, because, I mean, if you look at some of the stuff they do, it's definitely very goofy. Like some of those little like in-game cinematics, the propaganda, the fact that they call it Super Earth, the ultra propagandized like narrative that they tell about, like, oh, for democracy, all that stuff. It's they're very much leaning into just being silly and fun.
And it is funny from what I can tell. I've watched a couple of Let's Plays. It's pretty funny. Again, it's one of the games that doesn't take itself too seriously. They know what they've got. They lean into it, and they provide good value for what they're giving.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, they got that Starship Trooper influence. Sweet Liberty, no, yeah, just the completely cheesy, like that. I love shit like that. Like the serious moments are fun, but also the goofy moments. Honestly, I feel like my ideal in the game and like stories are like the ones that can do both, because I think they really like, depending on how you do it, it can really pull itself. They really complement each other. Because like,
Mm,
if you're like dead serious all the time, sometimes things can lack a little bit of impact because you're always in this same mood.
mm,
Whereas if you have these like goofy moments, like say your characters, have their more lighthearted and goofy sides, you see that a lot. Then when the serious stuff does happen and the characters themselves get super serious, that's when the impact really hits you. Like, oh, this is serious because now these guys who are normally like acting like goofballs are like being dead serious right now. I think it has a lot more impact that helps you take certain situations a little more seriously. Wait, if you are
Genuine-
dead serious, aren't you just dead? Maybe,
eh,
maybe.
I don't know. Probably. Uh, I agree with you, Matt, in that I think a well crafted, uh, seriously themed story w- with elements of humor sprinkled throughout, like in the form of like uh, you know, secondary dialogue. Like, whenever you're exploring like an open world situation, the characters, there's more than one character.
Yeah,
Or if it, or the like, if it's a single character, you'll find either those little items sprinkled out into the world that kind of give you some lore, or if it's a pair of characters that you're playing through, like say The Last of Us, there's kind of that dialogue that happens between the characters. If you inject a bit of kind of humor, and it could be various, it could be satirical humor, it could be dark humor, it could be just something that's just genuinely funny. That does again, it's the comic relief. It adds brevity to a otherwise serious situation. I'm not going to say necessarily dark, but serious situation. And it showcases, I think it showcases, done properly, it showcases a couple of things to the player. It showcases the character depth. You get to see a normally brooding character be a little bit funny.
yeah. There's different
But it
sides to the
also
character.
shows, yeah, it also shows kind of the world building and story pieces, to the to the dialogue and the narrative, because you could also hide, in that humor, you could hide foreshadowing, you could hide, potential, how do I put this, kind of points to other pieces, kind of like a trail to something else. So those are really really good ways to kind of inject that. And I think I agree with you. I think games that do that, not necessarily what I was talking about, that latter part, but like that they have humor injected into various elements of a story. Um, for me, I do like those as well, because
Yeah,
they're like in every situation, you want to break up the sameness of whatever it is your story you're telling.
yeah. Because like I mean, I think it's an overall like kind of like storytelling like technique to where
Mm,
like let's say the tone throughout your story can often they not saying that all stories go like this, but I've seen a lot. It's almost like a roller coaster of like lighter
mm,
and heavier tones. Or like one story arc is lighter in tone, followed by a story arc that's heavier in tone. Because they help accentuate or they help like
yeah.
they complement each other because of like the exact reasons I was saying before. Because like
Mm,
again, if you're dealing with heavy like very heavy tone all sometimes that can actually like kind of affect you. Like I remember back in the day, reading Berserk, that manga, fantastic
mhm.
manga. Rest in peace, Kentaro Miura, the creator.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
very heavy story, very. I remember
yeah.
back in the
If you
day,
know, you
like,
know. If you know, you know, man.
yeah, and there was like a.
Controversial opinion: Griffith did nothing wrong.
That
No, no, I'm
all
totally
starts with
bullshit. He did
fights.
everything. He did everything wrong.
Yeah, but I remember like back in the day, but the first time I was reading through that story because I recently read through it again.
Mhm.
First read through, there's a section where like Like it was almost making me depressed because the tone was so heavy for so long. And it's like, ooh,
Uh,
oh boy, oh this
that's
is
like
rough.
I need to go watch some My Little Pony or something to get any time
need,
happy in my life.
need a break or something.
Yeah.
Again, it's a fantastic story, but it's very, very heavy. A lot of dark
Mhm.
things. But yeah, that's why that kind of roller coaster of ping ponging between lighter and heavier tones keeps things fresh and doesn't like weigh down on too much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, but it's also just good. You know, so again, sometimes like Team Fortress 2 was kind of my first introduction to like kind of games that were a bit more comical. And I honestly, as I've gotten older and matured, and again now as a game designer, I've realized the need for those kind of games and the place that they have, because they do have a place and it is an important um, for the video game scene. Um, it's just my 2 cents anyway.
That was the first kind of goofy game. You weren't much of a Nintendo guy back in the day, were you?
For a little while I was, but then PlayStation came out.
Yeah, I mean PlayStation had some
PlayStation
good games.
PlayStation was the best console back then.
Debatable, debatable. Xbox
No,
three.
there's no,
I say
uh,
Xbox 360. Nintendo
not even
64.
not even the Xbox. Not even the Xbox. Sorry.
I mean, when the Xbox first came out, that was like what? That was like
When did
Nintendo
the
GameCube and
Xbox?
PS2 era.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like before that, honestly, it's hard to knock on the Nintendo 64. Yeah, Legend of Zelda,
I
Ocarina
mean,
of Time, and
yeah.
Majora's Mask, Super Mario 64,
True. True.
Dreamcast.
True. Yeah, the
Like I
Dreamcast.
never
The
had one of
Dreamcast was
those.
dope. Dreamcast. See the thing. That's the thing. I've played all the systems. I even played Atari back in the day. I didn't. I like obviously like I didn't grow up with it, but I've played it. But I had a NES. My mom bought me one. I think it was for my fourth birthday, and she brought me Mario, the not Super Mario, the Mario Brothers game.
Like
And
the
I stayed up.
OG.
The OG, yep. I stayed up till like 4 o'clock in the morning playing that shit. And the worst part is she had it hooked up in her room because her room had a TV, and she's like, "Okay, Robert, you need to go to bed. I need to sleep." I think it was like a weekend or something. And so I played the shit out of that game. And I played, Super Nintendo. I played Sega Genesis, Dreamcast, um, I had an N64. So I had Majora's Mask, I had um Ocarina of Time. And then I got a PlayStation. Well, my dad got a PlayStation. It's his PlayStation, and I got a PS2 when it came out. So that was like my I think that was well. No, I've played a couple of consoles. Like I played like PS5 games and some Xbox X series. I played some games from the latest consoles, but like there was a big gap between like PlayStation 2 and Xbox and slash Xbox 360 till now before I really played any meaningful console games. Because then I went to PC and that was it. PC
Yeah,
Master Race.
yeah. I mean, I play most of my games on PC these days, but that's partly because like I, I haven't been interested in getting the most recent Xboxes, and PS5s have just been like so hard to get.
Yes. Yeah, you are not kidding in that regard.
So like I got PC and I got a Switch. Switch has had some good games.
That they do. That they very much do have some good games.
I've played like I haven't played it in a while, but I played a lot of Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. I've always been a big Super Smash Bros.
Yeah. Okay.
Played like Fire Emblem games, Pokemon games. Unfortunately, Scarlet and
Asteroids.
Asteroids.
That
That's
was
the
a good
classic.
game. That was a good game, yeah. Horizon Zero Dawn. I have that game. I've heard very, very good things about that game. I haven't played it yet.
Oh yeah,
I probably should.
I haven't played it
Tell me if I should.
myself, but my brother played it, and he has nothing but good things to say about it. Um, it's a game that takes that the Ubisoft formula, like all games these days, Far Cry series
Mm.
and Assassin's Creed. They took that kind of style of gameplay and just, and this might be subjective depending on who you're talking to, but did it better. They and it was just a ton of fun, as well as just the idea of mecha dinosaurs being hunted by a bow. Like, how's that just not sound awesome?
Yeah, it's set in the post-apocalyptic world. So after civilization has collapsed, I think there was like a third world war that kind of destroyed everything, and yeah, the dinosaurs that you're facing essentially, because that's kind of what they look like to me anyway,
Oh yeah, they're
are are pieces of technology that are I think it was like AI. The end of the world was AI related, so those are like AI powered monsters essentially.
I think that was the gist of
But
it.
you,
I think there's a lot more to it, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I've heard that Horizon Zero Dawn had a fantastic story.
But you fight them with the fucking bow.
Well, you do
Like
some like,
that shit gets me.
well, I mean, I think there's like tools and weapons that you do that, like, it's not just a regular bow. Like, you do
Yeah,
stuff to it so that like it actually kind of makes sense that you're damaging these things.
yeah. I
But yeah,
suppose.
I mean, it's a super cool concept. If you want to say if you could just hunt mecha dinosaurs, like, come on.
Yeah, I probably could.
Whoever came up with that idea, A
I
plus
grew
for
up with
you.
Evangelion. I remember.
God, Evangelion. That
That
is
was
a story. They
going back and watching that as an adult where I can understand the themes. I'm like, oh boy, I watched this as a kid.
oh yeah, very dark themes. They kind of wrote that as they were making the series because it wasn't based off like a manga.
No, they
Sorry.
wrote it and then
It,
produced the episodes. Yeah.
yeah, they were flying by the seats of their ass for that entire series. So it's honestly amazing they created something so that was like so culturally impactful for all of anime like that.
Mm. Speaking of cultural impact on anime, Rip Akira Toriyama. For those of you who don't know and are kind of living under a rock, yes, he did pass away at the beginning of this month. Um, talk about impact and legacy, man. That dude is he's the grandfather of he's definitely one of the grandfathers of anime, but definitely the grandfather of the anime here in the West and its popularity for Western culture. Absolutely.
Yeah,
His impact on multiple generations. I'd say my generation, uh, and the one after me. I'm not that old, by the way.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so like,
I remember
I wouldn't say
watching.
you're after my generation. Now you were still. I mean, you're only 6 years younger than me. Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
yeah,
much
I'm
6
at.
years
I mean, I'm.
younger.
Are you considered a millennial? Or are you like the
Yes.
very oldest of the millennials? Or are you like,
No, I mean, I don't really know when the millennials start, but I know I am a millennial.
okay?
I think
I think
millennials
around
started in like the 70s.
'70s.
I don't
No,
know.
the
Oh, let me
millennials
look.
started like somewhere either early 1990s or late 1980s. I forget which. But anyway, yeah, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z definitely impacted a lot of people's childhoods. Like, I saw Dragon Ball Z before I saw Dragon Ball, and I remember watching that as I was a kid. And
Mm.
I admit I tried to fly. I tried to fly. Little me would like run up on like the couch, like stand up on the arm of the couch and then jump off and like just try to not fall. And I've repeated that several times, many times.
So yeah, you're right. I am a millennial. So I thought I for some reason I thought millennials were like way back, but apparently, according to what Google is showing me, millennials are goes from 81 to 96.
Okay.
So yeah, I am a millennial. I mean, I knew I was a millennial, but yeah. And yeah, you were born in what?
In
You're
1994, so I'm like,
94. So
I'm a
yeah,
fairly
you're
young
the
millennial.
tail end. Yeah, you're the tail end.
But yeah, but it's a shame to hear about Akira Toriyama because I mean, Dragon Ball as a series is still going. Dragon Ball Super. I know as far as the anime goes, uh, they had they had announced a Dragon Ball Daima series coming out that
Mhm.
I don't know how it was gonna go because kind of like how they did with GT back in the day, they made Goku a kid again. Different circumstances, but he was a kid again, and I don't know what they were planning at all with that story.
Yeah,
It the animation
I
for
don't
the
know.
trailer looked nice though. Like,
Yeah, they did. They did. Um, it's gonna be interesting to watch. Not that I watch Dragon Ball Super or any of the DBZ stuff now. Kind of outgrown it. I keep
hey,
up with it every now. I watch like clips here and there, and look up some stuff here and there, but not like I used to. But it's going to be interesting to see the progression of that universe without Akira Toriyama at the helm.
yeah.
Maybe, and this is the one piece of shade I will toss at him. Rip his soul. Maybe Vegeta will finally have his fucking moment. Maybe Vegeta will be the fucking hero.
I mean,
I said what I said. Vegeta out here always taking L's, man.
Dragon Ball equals
I'm,
here tag in while I go train and come back to kick his ass.
yeah,
You
pretty
know you're
much.
not wrong.
Pretty
That
much. Vegeta always taking an L and Goku always being the fucking hero.
okay.
At least
You
at
act
least
like
Vegeta's a
Vegeta
better
didn't
fucking dad.
you act like Vegeta didn't deserve all those beatdowns he got. Though.
Well, I will say half of them he earned, either running his mouth
I'd say
or
90%.
in the case of Cell, letting that motherfucker reach his perfect state. Like, really, dude? Come on.
It's like I'm so cocky. I'm kicking your ass now, but I'll let you get stronger because I'll win anyway. And he
Proceeded
did
to get his
not.
ass beat.
He let the bad guy reach his ultimate power and got his ass beat for it.
Yep, yep.
Like Vegeta,
That one was very much deserved.
it was so much deserved. Like honestly, like I see people like I've seen a lot of like Vegeta fans like you see like Vegeta merch like on t-shirts talking about like the pride and stuff and it's like you guys don't understand that his pride is the reason like that's the thing that caused all his problems, right? You realize that that's the cause of all of his problems he because he was way too prideful and arrogant. In fact, the
I,
end of at the end of Dragon Ball Z, at the end of the Buu saga, his entire like character arc was swallowing his pride finally, and that's how he helped like save the world with Goku at worked with Goku. It was like that was his character arc, swallowing that pride because it kept causing him problems.
well, I wouldn't say swallowing his pride, um, in its totality, because he is like he's pride. It was a different kind of pride. It was a kind of an arrogant,
Oh
a
yeah,
negative arrogance in that regard, that he
oh yeah,
thought he was better than Goku and all that jazz. Um, and he finally realized that Goku is he's the real deal. He's not a a joke or whatever. Like
a
he's
clown.
earned his position. I mean, he's still a clown. He's still a clown.
Yeah,
He'll always be a clown.
but yeah,
But
I mean,
in GT, and especially in Super, like he's still proud of his race. He's proud of who he is, his heritage, and there's nothing wrong with that.
oh
Absolutely
yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But yeah, Harper, it is funny that he had a daughter. Yeah, Bula, that's his little girl. Well, I don't know if she's little anymore. I think in current timeline she's an adult now. I think
Dragon Ball Super recently did a time skip, so like
it had time skip.
Goten and Trunks are
teenagers.
older. Yeah, actually, I think she's still pretty young because she's young. She was born after Pan was, and Pan is still
Yeah, yeah.
so. Yeah,
And Pan is
Gohan.
Videl and
Yeah,
Gohan's
Gohan.
kid.
Gohan Vidal's kid. So yeah, like she's still young, which makes it weird that like I remember in GT, she was there and like she looks older than Pan. It's like, huh? She's
Yep.
like that doesn't make any sense. She's like she looks a good bit older than Pan
There
did.
was a
Like,
lot of continuity issues with DBZ and the Dragon Ball universe as a whole, but we still love it.
look, like it's been a Dragon Ball has been a weird series ever since the end of Z. You know, because even I'd say Super is better than GT, but still has its host of problems.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I still enjoy it. Harper, as far as Vegeta goes, he was conditioned to believe he was the best and had to be the best. I mean, yeah, he was
not wrong.
He was royalty for his people, and
Uh,
you know, the high class warrior, you know, all that stuff.
no, an elite Saiyan warrior. And to be fair, and this is gonna be another controversial. See, I personally believe he's a better fighter than Goku. He's a smarter fighter.
Depends on the arc. Like,
Yeah,
if
I was
you
gonna say,
if
it
you
does
look at
depend on the
Frieza
arc.
arc on Namek, he's very smart there.
Yeah,
And go to Cell arc,
he does some dumb shit.
his arrogance is on full display, and it he makes a lot of
Yeah.
dumb decisions because of
does
that.
some dumb shit. 100%. But on the whole, I think he is a much smarter fighter than Goku. And here's the thing, and I think a lot of people don't know this. You wouldn't know unless like you watched, like DBZ, like early DBZ, and you look, you've watched his back. Homeboy was blowing up planets as a kid. Like
Yeah,
he
I
was
mean,
wiping out whole planets as a kid.
I mean, power scaling in Dragon Ball has
Yeah,
always
power
been
scaling is fucking
super
stupid.
whack.
But still, all of that is still canon. Like again, he was wiping out planets as a kid, so he did come in with a little bit of an ego, let's put it that way,
Personally, I
and
think it's
very
just
much a
Napoleon
chip on his shoulder.
complex.
Yo, that also might very well be true because Homeboy is a short.
He's so
dude.
short. I mean, that's why he has his hair so
Everybody's
spiked
taller
up
than
like
him.
that. It adds some height to him. No?
Yeah, everybody. I think the only person who isn't taller than him is Krillin, but then Krillin is shorter than everybody.
Okay, Krillin's size changes all the time. It really depends on who he's
Just
standing
depends.
next to. Like,
yeah.
like in the Frieza saga, he's next to Gohan a lot. So he was like a little manlet there all the time. Then in the Android saga, he's drawn like a little more human looking. Again, his size is very inconsistent. But honestly, I don't really care too much. The man doesn't have a nose anyway. Make a joke about it sometimes, just because that was the art style that he was drawn with. Yeah, it's funny to think about Dragon Ball sometimes because Akira Toriyama really did, because we talked about how in Evangelion that was written like, you know, as it was going. There wasn't like an overall plan, or I mean, there was like a plan, but wasn't like already like completely done. And Akira Toriyama was the same way. He was kind of like writing it as it went, and that also did show itself a lot in the Android saga, because yeah, the first enemies, right, which was the old man and this fat clown. Editor said, no, that can't be it. That can't be our end bad guys. Change it. Okay, bring in Android 17 and 18. His editor comes in again. What? They're just like two brats. No, can't be done. It's like, okay, I bring in Cell. It's like, what? He's too monstrous looking. Do it again. It's like, okay, Cell transforms. Look at him now. His second form. It's like, nah, he's too ugly. Do it again. Okay, fine. He finally got to perfect Cell.
Perfect Cell.
That is how the Cell saga came to be. Akira Toriyama's editor kept coming back to him with the villains he was making. He's like, no, that can't be the villain for this arc.
Is it? Wait, is that true? Is
Yes,
that what
yeah.
actually happened?
That's how that arc went. The editor kept coming back, be like, "No, this can't be the final villain for this arc. Do it. Come up with something else." And he did. It just kept happening until we finally hit Perfect Cell.
That's that's absolutely hilarious. Akira Toriyama took fuck ups and turned it into a whole story. He would be that guy.
I'll say it's impressive. He managed to like take that constantly changing one and that constantly changing like end goal and make it work. I think the one that finally lost me was Boo. Struggled with that one. Yeah, I think that was an arc that really like if the Cell Saga was the show of how adaptable Akira Toriyama was and how he could still make a good story while changing on the. I think the Boo Saga showed like the kind of weakness in that style because at that point you could really tell that he was struggling on whether or not he wanted Gohan to be the main character
Yeah.
because Goku was supposed to be dead and only back for like a limited time, several days or something like that. And Gohan was supposed to be the main hero. They even had like a training arc ish for Gohan as he was away and like gaining more power. He came back and he's like, supposed to be, yeah, this Gohan's back, stronger than ever. He's gonna defeat Majin Buu, and then he doesn't. And then it's Goku and Vegeta who are both like dead now back and saving the day. It's like
Yep.
you can kind of tell that Akira Toriyama was kind of like changing his mind direction of the story.
Yeah. I think at that point he probably felt that if he let go of the Goku character, the character of Gohan couldn't step in and still be the face. Because I mean, you can look this up. Goku is he's in the top 5 of most recognized characters in the world ever. He's right up there with Mickey Mouse.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's
Let me see.
yeah. I mean, Dragon Ball is hugely popular. Like it's actually crazy how popular it is. Speaking of great anime, Death Parade, I remember that. I remember that anime. it the intro. If you ever talked about inconsistency of tone between an intro and the actual story, that is Death Parade because it had an amazing intro that was so like happy good time, and then it's this this story about like people dealing with death, and it's like the it's like the intro does not prepare you at all for what the story is, but I loved I loved the that intro. One of the famous memes from Dragon Ball Z is the over 9,000. Yeah, that was the over
Wow.
9,000 bit
Okay.
was that was a classic meme for quite a while. I haven't heard anyone mention it's kind of a dead meme by now, but it's popular for quite a while.
So according to uh, Wikipedia's, and I'll take this with a grain of salt, guys. The most iconic fictional character across films, television, literature, and pop culture since the turn of the 20th century. Top 5 are Son Goku or Goku, Mickey Mouse, James Bond, Bugs Bunny, and Batman. Those are the top 5. Followed closely in the top 10 are Dorothy, Darth Vader, the Tramp from Lady and the Tramp, Peter Pan, and Indiana Jones.
Interesting. I
Mhm.
knew James Bond was pretty popular. I didn't realize he was like up there in the ranking. It's an interesting one.
Well, this is Wikipedia, so take it with a grain
I
of
mean,
salt.
grain of salt, but I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes. I mean, Wikipedia can sometimes like if you really want to do research, you like go into the sources section for Wiki. That's how you like. That's how I really get the information. Like if you're like writing a paper in You're not supposed to cite Wikipedia. Go to the sources Wikipedia sites and get
Yeah. Sonic the Hedgehog is number 100.
that far down. Really?
Hmm.
Huh, I thought he'd be a good bit higher up there. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, Tramp
Zoro's even
also.
on the list.
Who?
Zoro
From
Z-
One Piece
from
or
One Piece. Yep.
wait,
Zoro. Wait.
above
No,
Luffy?
the Mask of Zoro.
Oh, the Mask is
No, sorry.
okay. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, I was like, there's a couple Zoros that I know by now.
Yeah.
Vader.
Wow.
I mean, Vader is incredibly.
I mean, Vader is. It's Vader.
He's Darth Vader. He is the face of Star Wars. Like, no one cares about Luke Skywalker. It's Vader, baby.
It's the Vader. It's the Vader world, and everybody just living in it. I mean, Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one, despite what the modern movies may want you to believe. Anakin Skywalker is and will always be the chosen one.
No, I know a lot of people have have a lot of things to say about the prequel series, but like that's the series I grew up with. So that's
What do you mean? A lot of people have to say about
I've heard a lot of
the
people
ones
like say
the
that the
ones
prequel
who
series were
know.
bad.
The stupid people say that the prequel series is bad. The one like us, our generation, we grew up with that.
Oh yeah.
That is our, that's our uh, uh version.
Oh yeah.
That's, well, not version. I mean, it's canon, but that's what we know. We got to see Anakin Skywalker and young Obi-Wan Kenobi, whereas the generation before us got to see Luke Skywalker, old Ben,
Han
Yoda,
Solo.
older Yoda, Han Solo, and Darth Vader. And I mean, I honestly, sad part about that is that Hayden Christensen got a lot of hate from the older fans back then for his role as Anakin Skywalker. But recently, as I think you might have heard, he got a lot of recognition and a kind of a lot of good feedback, almost pretty much unanimously from our generation when he stepped back into the role of Darth Vader, Anakin, younger Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, for his roles in the Obi-Wan Kenobi film or show and the Ahsoka Tano show.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I haven't
And
kept up with Star Wars
the
in a
man, the
long time.
man finally got his fucking flowers, and they are long overdue and much deserved because him and Ewan McGregor, I mean, all of them, all the cast of the old prequels, but him and Ewan McGregor especially, I mean, he is Anakin Skywalker, period. And he did a fantastic job as Anakin Skywalker. Ewan McGregor he was Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he was Ben. That was it.
Yeah, I mean, who could forget his iconic line? Hello there.
Yeah, it's become a meme.
It is.
So no one will ever forget it.
It's just the delivery there. It was just great. Hello
Yeah.
there.
And I will say this, whatever you think of the new trilogy, I guess I personally was not a huge fan, for reasons. And no, it does not have to do with anything about being a woman. Just the narration. There were elements of those movies I didn't like. And the fact that they completely or tried to undo Anakin Skywalker's whole, arc of beating the Emperor, like that was absolutely stupid.
I only watched the first one of the new trilogy, and I don't know, it just didn't quite do it for me. Personally,
So the first movie was okay. I actually did not mind Rogue One, and I think the only reason why I liked Rogue One was because of Donnie Yen's character, the blind monk. Donnie Yen has a strong ass back, as he definitely carried that movie, in my opinion.
yeah, like The
So
vibe I got when watching the first movie trilogy was I don't know. It felt like they were relying on the nostalgia of original Star Wars a little too much. Like they used a lot of those like very old fashioned screen transitions. The fact that they essentially did a bigger Death Star, and it just felt like it was relying on the old Star Wars a little too much to the point that I felt like it was lacking original.
yeah,
Granted, I don't
I
know
mean
too much of
that's
the
a fair.
movies going forward after that. I've heard opinions both good and bad, but
That's a
that
fair
was
assessment. I think.
what I got from that first movie, and I don't know, it just didn't draw me in, so I didn't go back to see the next movies after they
Gotcha.
Jar
Um,
Jar Binks. Oh,
Jar
Jar
Darth
Jar,
Jar Jar, good old Darth Jar Jar.
Everyone's
He that
favorite
character
character.
that character was definitely. eh, I can see that Infinity Core. I can see the why of that particular one. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
because he was. Eh,
I mean, he was meant
he
to be the comic
was.
relief character, but it's
It wasn't done necessarily well, in my opinion.
it's a thing that happens sometimes. I've seen it in a couple stories where a comic relief character becomes kind of annoying because of how like over the top they are. Like I think characters like Jar Jar can work. It's just wasn't done quite right, and he came out being annoying.
Mhm.
Let's remember that Star Wars actually birthed a lot of the current special effects that we have. Really, I mean, I guess
But
I'm
yeah,
not too
it did.
like familiar with like cinema and its history.
Yeah. So for those of you guys who don't know, George Lucas was absolutely instrumental in the cinema that we have today, both in lenses, in effects. Um, I'd even say in terms of like sci-fi story writing. Exactly, yeah. Like he was part of like George Lucas. Everybody always kind of remembers George Lucas just for the Star Wars series, but the man has done so much for the film and TV industry um, behind the scenes. He's done a lot. Um, he's definitely earned his place in movie and uh, uh, and like television history.
Yeah, I
And
didn't know
I
that.
only found about a lot of this stuff recently. Yeah, he had a hand in a lot of like a lot of the modern lenses that are used today, and a lot of like pioneering that a lot of that whole bit like camera equipment and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Um, so yeah,
I,
it was surprising to me because I always just thought of him as creator of fucking Star Wars, monks in space kind of shit. But no, he got a hand in a lot of other things too.
yeah, that's interesting. I'll be honest. I don't pay that much attention to like a lot of like modern Western like TV and stuff. If you guys can't
Remember,
tell,
Matt's a weeb.
I but I mostly watch like anime and like YouTube and stuff like that. So when it comes to like movies and stuff, I
Yeah.
guess I don't know. I don't know too much of stuff like that. Like I never even watched like Game of Thrones. I
Why
never
you've
even
never
watched
watched
that.
Game of
Not a
Thrones?
single episode.
My guy.
Yeah, that's the
Damn.
thing because like I managed to like I managed to power through that peer pressure because it was like everyone was watching it. Everyone's like, you should be watching it, and like I was just like,
Damn. I mean, I wouldn't even say peer pressure. Like honestly, outside of the season we won't talk about, or and here's the thing: even season 8 wasn't terrible. It was just like that the certain aspects of it were trash. Um, yeah, Infinity Core. Most of modern Western television is a rehashing of the good old days, as we like to call them. But the first 7 seasons were actually really really good.
look, I'll say
I don't a
because
lot of watch a lot of Western TV either. Movies though, certain ones like for me, the Dune movies that have come out recently, last year and then this year, Absolutely. Well, I think Dune came out more than a year ago. It was like 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Fantastic movies. Fantastic movies. I haven't seen the second one yet though, but I've heard nothing but good things about it. So
I all I
I
know
will I
about
will defend certain.
all I know about Dune 2 is that they got the funny popcorn bucket that the internet made fun
Wait,
of.
they brought that back out?
I don't know if they're still like making them, but the
Oh,
popcorn
okay, I
bucket
was
was
about to say
hilarious.
the popcorn bucket was fucking hilarious. That thing turned into an internet sensation and a meme so quickly.
I can't tell if the marketing team knew what it was,
I would
but
be
like
surprised if they didn't.
I don't know because sometimes companies do some like marketing teams
Dumb
can
shit.
do some stupid shit. Like for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, just Google Dune 2 popcorn bucket and just one look at it and I'm sure you can tell what the internet did with that thing, especially if you're a guy. Let's
Yeah,
just say it
boy.
had a hole, and that's all I'm gonna say.
That's all you need to say.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, Infinity Core. Denis Villeneuve is sticking to the books as closely as possible. So I mean, and honestly, yeah, you can't. You if you stick to the books, you can't really fuck up Frank Herbert's Dune. The books are absolutely fantastic.
I think there are very few cases where movie or
You
TV
stick to the
show.
original source material, you
Yeah,
make a good product. I'm looking at you, Witcher.
I think there are very few cases where that departure actually works in its favor. Like I think the only one that I can think of off the top of my head, and granted, this is purely from what I've heard. I'm not familiar with the source material or the TV adaptation, but Amazon Prime's The Boys. I've
Yes,
heard that the
I've
TV
heard some good.
show takes quite a departure from the original comic, and I've heard people say that the TV show does it better.
Yeah, I've heard of that as. I've seen. I think I've seen the first season of The Boys, and it was really good. Um, there there are some good stuff out there. It's just un, unfortunately a lot of it is locked behind subscription. Like The Good Omens, which is based off of a book by Neil Gaiman, is on Amazon Prime. Same thing with The Boys. Same thing with well, this is one series called Carnival Row. It's with Orlando Bloom. Really good show. It wasn't based off a book or anything. It was just based off of a pretty good, at least in my opinion. Yeah, The Expanse. The Expanse was actually based off a book series. Really, really good show. I think I'm on season 2 or 3, season 2, something like that. Really, really solid show. Um, but yeah, that is that. I get what you're saying, Infinity Core. I wouldn't even say just Western television, but primarily Western TV, because I think that's what a lot of the world consumes is kind of Western media. A lot of it is trash, and then the stuff that isn't, it's locked behind subscriptions. You got to get a subscription for this or that or this or that, or pirate it, which I'm not advocating for. But you're an adult, you can
I
do
was
what
about to say, I feel like
you
you know, like when it comes to TV, you're not getting much of that, at least from like official sources.
want. Yeah,
If I mean, if you want like free entertainment, there's like YouTube or Twitch, essentially.
pretty much. Yeah.
And anything else you're gonna be paying for. Again,
Mhm.
unless you pirate it, go to like unofficial. But I won't say I'm endorsing those. Say I'm not endorsing. But I mean that's up to each individual.
Yeah, it's up to each individual person to kind of do what with they wish.
I'm not
Probably
a
just
narc.
butcher whatever.
I won't tell on you. You know.
We're gonna
I,
rat you out.
I'm not gonna go to like I'm not gonna go to like Disney be like they were watching a pirated Mickey Mouse because Disney would come after you. They'd come after
um, they would.
you.
Surprisingly enough, the 100 was actually good. I have watched that show, Infinity Core. I didn't never finished it. I think I got up to can't remember what season. Um, uh, but I know I didn't finish that one. Another show that I've actually been meaning to check out is American Gods. I've heard that one is really, really well done as well. Also, based on Neil Gaiman um, uh, book series.
Yeah, but
Warcraft the movie.
I forgot that was
Ironically
a
enough,
thing.
that movie was considered a flop by a lot of people, but I've seen it and I like it. I thought it was pretty fucking good.
I forgot Warcraft the movie thing.
I,
I
and
completely forgot it existed.
it probably has to do because it was Travis Fimmel was in it. And for those of you who don't know, Travis Fimmel is the guy who plays Ragnar in the Viking series. Another good fucking show. But the show did decline a bit after Ragnar left. Yeah, it did flop because of the kind of the changes in lore and stuff like that. Probably, even though let's face it, Warcraft lore is shit. At least World of Warcraft lore stuff. The Warcraft games, like Warcraft 1, 2, and 3, from what I've heard and researched, the lore is actually pretty solid. But when you get into World of Warcraft, things get a little dicey.
I've never been too knowledgeable on Warcraft lore, so I'll take your word for it. All I know is orcs are green because demons.
Yep.
That's about all I really know.
Demons.
By the way,
Well,
for
actually,
the Horde, by the way.
the demon orcs are the red ones, and yes, for the horde all the way. Even though I have an alliance character,
How dare
for
you?
the horde.
How
Look,
dare you?
man.
What?
There's only two races that can be a fucking demon hunter. Unfortunately, it's night elves and blood elves.
So then you make a blood elf. Like, what's the issue?
Yeah, I have an alliance character because of Harp. She put a gun to my head.
Okay, I see. You were forced to. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
personally,
I had no choice.
personally, if someone put a gun to my head and told me to make an alliance character, I'd tell them to shoot. But that's fine too.
But yeah, I personally like the Warcraft movie. I thought it was a good movie, personally. But wow, yeah, modern media. I don't know. Modern media, especially Western media, I think it has its ups and its downs. It's good and it's bad. I honestly, I think everything we've covered on this podcast so far. Wow, 44 episodes in, Jesus.
Yep.
Whew.
Before we know it, we'll hit episode 50.
Yeah, fuck. For me, I feel like not every, but a lot of media nowadays has an agenda, like a social agenda, political agenda, religious agenda. And again, not to get too into those weeds because we try not to do that here, but getting to it.
I
And
don't know.
I feel like if you focus on telling a good story, now if your story does involve politics, or social issues, or religious issues, that's fine. That's okay. Those still make really good and compelling stories. But if what you're trying to tell, the story that you're trying to tell, has nothing to do with either of those, you shoehorn it in there, you're doing yourself and the content a disservice. Make a good story. Make a good story filled with good characters. Leave the agendas at the door, man. Whether you're making a game, writing a book, making a TV show, or a movie, leave the agendas at the door, please, for the love of God, or whatever you believe in, please.
I think just about every story is going to have something to say. Like, they're going to have something to comment on, whether it's some part of the mission or some part of, like, just our society or whatever. Some aspect, there's something to say on it. Again, I think it all just comes up to it. And I'm sure if you look back in the day, you could probably see, you could probably find some things, just the exact kind of stuff that you're complaining about that you see in today. It's just that those ones get forgotten about.
And yeah, I mean, I think all media nowadays has, you know, there's always an agenda or something that they're talking about or less. And again, I don't have a problem with it if the story is written in such a way where those pieces make sense. And I think you can agree with me. Too often now you see and I'm just going to say from my perspective, because this is more of the media that I do consume, Western television and movies, and all Western media. Now I'm sure Eastern media has the same, um, but it's focused exactly, Infinity Core. That's basically what I'm saying. It's like in Western media, a lot of it is a story that absolutely has nothing to do with anything going on right now. Like it's and sometimes it'll even be a story from an earlier period in time trying to talk about current day social issues. It's like what are you even fucking doing? Has no those two have nothing to do with each other. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this stuff in the past and
Yeah.
past. Again, it's
It's
not
again
it's not about the message being told. It's just about the way it's weaved to the story and whether it's done. Because
yeah.
you can tell when a theme or message is woven meticulously and methodically into the narrative and how it works that naturally, or when it gets ham fisted. And yeah, sometimes you see the ham fisting, and honestly, a lot of times when it's done super well, people, I think a lot of people don't even realize the message that's being told to them because it's done in a subtle fashion that doesn't try to shove it down your throat.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I think a lot of people think that, like, this thing that they love, it's not trying to push any kind of agenda. It's just that they don't realize it has some kind of message that the message is trying to tell them. Because again, every piece of media, at least I'd say almost every piece of media, has something to say. But we've been going on for about 2 hours, so I think we're gonna be I think it's time for some housekeeping. Bring this kind of to a close. So
go ahead, Matt.
First, I'll say tomorrow we aren't going to be having our usual game stream. Greg is going to be over. GaryCon gonna be very busy over there. It's around like 2 games a day, 4 days.
Yep.
Man is going to be exhausted.
32 hours of games. Oh boy, it's gonna be wild.
Yeah, he's so salutes to you, Greg. You trooper. You're doing it all.
Yep, respect, man. Meanwhile, Matt and myself will be running 1 4-hour game the entirety of GaryCon. We will be Matt will be running a Cyberpunk campaign based off of the Bozos gang, and I will be running a Witcher game. That's gonna be kind of a supernatural mystery. And yeah, we'll be running those at 1:00 each day, from Thursday, tomorrow to Sunday. There's still some room at either of our tables, I believe. I still got room.
Mine are full, right?
Okay, so his are full. I still got room on Saturday and Sunday. Tickets, I believe, are fairly cheap. They're about like $5 for a virtual ticket to play. So yeah. And I'm sure Greg will probably try to stream something, maybe a short stream of something via our TikTok over the con. Keep an eye out on our Discord if you are part of our Discord. If you're not, I highly recommend you join our Discord so you can kind of keep up to date on this stuff. We'll be posting some stuff there as well. But yeah, and then next week should be back to business as usual. Wednesday will be episode 45 of the update log, and then Thursday will be our RPG stream. But yeah, you'll find out all the stuff on the Discord. So, and that also has the links to our other channels like our YouTube, our TikTok, and our Twitter page. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's it. Thank you guys for coming out. It's been a bit of a casual kind of chit chat, which was a nice change of pace. But yeah, that's it for episode 44. You guys have a good evening. And we'll see you guys over the next couple of days via Discord and such. And we'll see you guys here next week for episode 45 of the Update Log.
Right. And
are you gonna pull a Greg and forget to raid?
No, it's the little chat box in the Streamlabs for me isn't working for whatever reason. So I can raid right now. So sorry Greg if you're listening. Messed up on that bit. So I'm gonna just end the stream, and if people want to go watch someone else, Stormy D's online. You could always go check him out. So yeah, everyone have a good evening, and we'll see you guys next week.